the bridge between us. Evelyn had always believed in routine. Every morning, she walked across the old stone bridge that connected her quiet village to the bustling town where she worked. She liked the rhythm of her steps against the cobblestones, the sound of the river rushing beneath, the way the sunrise painted the world in gold. It gave her comfort, predictability. But one autumn morning, as the leaves turned amber and drifted lazily into the water, she noticed someone standing at the railing. He wasn't from her village. She would have remembered his face. His eyes were distant, fixed on the horizon, as though searching for something the river might carry to him. Evelyn hesitated but finally walked past, offering a polite nod. He smiled. "Good morning." It was simple, but the warmth in his voice stayed with her the entire day. Over the next week, she saw him often, always at the same spot on the bridge, always lost in thought until he noticed her. His name was Daniel, an artist who had recently moved into the town. He said the bridge gave him inspiration, the mix of permanence and change. Evelyn found herself slowing down just to talk with him, first about the weather, then about books, dreams, and the little mysteries of life. Soon, the bridge was no longer just part of her routine. It became the highlight of her day. Daniel painted the river and the bridge in dozens of ways at dawn, at twilight, under stormy skies. But his favorite painting was one he didn't show her immediately. When he finally unveiled it, Evelyn's breath caught. It was her, standing on the bridge, with sunlight catching her hair, looking both fragile and strong at once. "Why me?" she whispered. "Because," Daniel said softly, "you remind me that beauty isn't just in what we see, it's in what makes us pause, what makes us stay." Their friendship deepened, and with it grew something neither of them could ignore. But Evelyn hesitated. Her life was safe, steady, predictable. Love, she thought, was dangerous. It asked you to leap into uncertainty. One evening, after weeks of circling around their feelings, Daniel asked her to meet him on the bridge after work. The river was alive with reflections of lanterns from the village festival. Music drifted faintly through the air. "Evelyn," he began, his voice trembling, "I don't know where this will lead, but I know the bridge brought me here first. Maybe it's to remind me that sometimes the most extraordinary things happen when we step off the path we've always known." Her heart pounded. The night was filled with possibility, and for once, Evelyn let herself believe that love could be part of her routine too. Messy, unpredictable, but real. She reached for his hand, and in that quiet moment, the bridge became more than stone and river. It became the place where two lives intertwined, where love began. Years later, villagers would still see them walking hand in hand across the same bridge, as if it belonged to them, as if it had been waiting all along to carry their story. Whispers by the riverside. The town of Alderwood was small, quiet, and often overlooked by the world beyond its rolling hills. Yet for Emily, who had lived there all her life, it was the center of her universe. She worked at the town's little bookshop by the riverside, a cozy place filled with old shelves, warm lamps, and the smell of pages that carried decades of stories. Every morning, she would unlock the door, arrange the books, and sit by the window with a cup of tea, watching the river flow gently past. It was a simple life, steady, familiar, and safe. That was until one rainy afternoon in early spring when Daniel walked into the shop. Daniel wasn't from Alderwood. He was a photographer, traveling from town to capture forgotten places and quiet lives. He had the kind of presence that filled the room without effort, calm, confident, yet curious. His eyes lingered not only on the books, but also on Emily, who greeted him with her usual gentle smile. "What are you looking for?" she asked. The river outside seemed to carry their conversations, their laughter, and the unspoken words between them. As weeks passed, Emily found herself waiting for him, listening for the sound of the little bell above the door. She wasn't used to letting someone into her quiet life, but Daniel fit into it effortlessly, like a missing piece of a puzzle she hadn't known was incomplete. One evening, as the sun painted the river gold, Daniel invited her to walk with him. They followed the riverside path, listening to the water and the chorus of cicadas. He told her stories of places he had been, mountains kissed by clouds, cities alive with neon lights, and deserts that stretched endlessly under the stars. And yet, he said softly, none of those places feel as alive as this small town. Or maybe it's because of you. Emily's heart raced. She had lived in Alderwood her whole life, never imagining she could be someone's reason to stay. But life has its terms. A few weeks later, Daniel received an offer for an exhibition in another country, an opportunity that could change everything for him. When he told Emily, the air between them grew heavy. "You should go," she said, her voice steady though her heart trembled. "I don't want to leave you behind," Daniel whispered. "You won't," she answered, though tears shimmered in her eyes. "Because no matter where you go, you'll carry a part of me with you." On his last night in Alderwood, they stood by the river under a blanket of stars. Daniel held her hands as if he never wanted to let go. "If this world allows it," he promised, "I'll find my way back to you." And with a kiss that tasted of both love and farewell, he left. Months passed. Emily returned to her routine, but the bookshop no longer felt the same. Every bell chime made her heart leap, hoping it might be him. She followed his work in newspapers and magazines, proud yet aching, wondering if the promise beneath the stars was something time would keep. Then one spring morning, almost a year later, the bell rang. Emily looked up, and there he was, standing in the doorway with the same calm eyes, the same gentle smile, and a camera slung over his shoulder. "I told you," Daniel said, his voice trembling with emotion. "I'd find my way back." This time, there was no farewell, only the beginning of a love that had already proven it could survive distance, silence, and time. Together, they stood by the riverside once more, no longer two separate stories, but one. The bridge at midnight. Emma had always believed that love was something that happened suddenly, like lightning splitting the sky. But when it came, it arrived quietly, like the soft rhythm of rain on glass. She met Daniel on an ordinary evening at the riverside. She was sketching the old stone bridge, its lamps glowing gold against the twilight. He was leaning against the railing, reading a worn book of poetry. Their eyes met, not in a rush of fireworks, but in a calm recognition, like finding a piece of music they both knew. Over the weeks, they kept meeting at the bridge, sometimes by accident, sometimes on purpose. Emma would bring her sketchbook, Daniel his poetry. They began to share little things, her drawings, his verses, their laughter. She learned that he was a teacher who believed every line of poetry carried a piece of the heart. He learned she was an artist afraid that her work was too ordinary to matter. One evening, as autumn painted the trees with fire, Daniel recited a verse that stayed with her. "Some loves burn bright, but fade. Others glow quietly and light the soul forever." Emma felt the truth of it in her bones. Yet winter came, and with it, the storm. Daniel received a job offer abroad, a chance to teach at a university he had dreamed of. The news hung heavy between them. At their last meeting before his departure, snow drifted around the bridge like silent confetti. Emma pressed a small drawing into his hands, the bridge, the river, and two figures standing side by side. "Take this with you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "So you'll remember where your heart belongs." Daniel held her close, his words caught between the cold air and his longing. Emma, if this bridge has held us once, it will hold us again. Months passed. Emma returned to the bridge often, sometimes sketching, sometimes only waiting. The seasons turned quietly. The ice melted, blossoms returned, and the river sang again. Still, she waited. One warm night, beneath the silver light of summer's first moon, she heard footsteps behind her. Slowly, she turned. Daniel stood there, travel-worn but smiling, holding her old drawing creased, faded but cherished. I found my way back, he said softly. Her eyes filled with tears as she ran into his arms. The bridge glowed with its golden lamps, silent witness to a love that had never dimmed. And so it was not lightning, but the steady glow of a lantern in the night that proved love's truest light in